Hey man, the moment you stop chasing her and your energy finally goes quiet, something inside her shifts in a way she didn't prepare for. She was used to your presence being predictable, the good morning texts, the check-ins, the calls, the little reassurances you gave without thinking. Those weren't just habits to her, they were emotional guarantees. And when you stop, when your world no longer orbits around her, she feels it like a sudden drop in temperature. It's not anger, she feels first, it's confusion. Confusion because the rhythm she built her confidence on is suddenly gone. Confusion because she thought the attention you gave was permanent. Confusion because she didn't expect the man who once cared so openly to go quiet so effortlessly. And that confusion becomes the doorway to everything she'll feel next. At first, she tells herself it's nothing. She'll say you're busy, distracted, preoccupied. She'll rationalize your silence, because accepting the alternative, that you're losing interest, is too heavy for her ego to process. But even while she convinces herself you're just occupied, her mind starts pulling apart the timeline. She rewinds old conversations, she replays recent interactions, she examines the last message you sent, she scans for clues she missed, and with every thought she begins to feel the subtle sting of uncertainty. Because deep down, even through her denial, she senses something has shifted. She senses a distance that wasn't there before. She senses the beginning of something she can't control, and that terrifies her more than she'll ever admit. As your silence settles in, she begins to feel something she hasn't faced in a long time, the loss of emotional control. See, women aren't afraid of losing men, they're afraid of losing influence. As long as you were chasing, she felt emotionally safe. As long as you were present, she felt desired. But when your silence takes away the validation she used to depend on, she starts feeling untethered. She no longer knows where she stands. She no longer knows if she still has you, and that uncertainty begins to eat at her sense of emotional security. She won't say it, she won't show it, but internally she feels a tension she can't shake, the kind that whispers, "What if he's done?" Your silence forces her to feel something she avoids at all costs: self-reflection. When you were pursuing her, she didn't have to evaluate her behavior. She didn't have to question her tone, her inconsistency, her emotional detachment, or the way she responded to you. But now, with no effort coming from your side, she begins to wonder if she pushed too far, if she dismissed you too quickly, if she gave too little. It's not guilt she feels, not yet, but a creeping awareness that she might have miscalculated. The absence of your attention becomes a mirror, and she can't help but glance into it. And in that reflection, she sees the version of herself she never realized you were silently enduring. What hits her next is a subtle form of jealousy, not necessarily over another woman, but over the possibility that your attention has shifted somewhere she cannot see. Silence suggests movement. Silence suggests growth. Silence suggests that your world is expanding without her approval or involvement, and that thought alone rattles her, because as long as you were chasing, she knew exactly where your heart was, but now she doesn't know who you're texting. She doesn't know where your mind is. She doesn't know what's occupying the emotional space she once took for granted, and the lack of certainty unsettles her far more than the idea of losing you. As the days pass, your silence begins to surface as irritation in her mind, but not because she's angry at you. She's angry at the loss of comfort. She's angry that she's suddenly the one wondering. She's angry that you shifted first. Her irritation is really fear dressed up as frustration. She starts thinking, why isn't he giving me attention? Why isn't he reaching out? What changed? She won't text you these questions, but she'll replay them privately. This irritation is the beginning of a deeper emotional pull, a pull that happens when the person who once sought her now operates completely outside her emotional gravity. But the real shift happens when she starts noticing how different you look from a distance. Your silence creates a sense of mystery she wasn't expecting. Every woman is drawn to the man she cannot fully read, and in your absence she can no longer predict you. She begins thinking about you in moments she didn't expect. In the middle of her day, at night, while scrolling her phone, your silence creates a presence that says you're no longer emotionally available on demand, and that unpredictability makes her feel something she hasn't felt in a long time: curiosity. Curiosity about your life, curiosity about your intentions, curiosity about what changed inside you. Her ego, which once gave her confidence around you, begins to soften. The woman who thought she could keep you waiting without consequence now feels something she never expected, a sense of vulnerability. Your silence forces her to confront the truth she avoided. You were the stable one, you were the consistent one, you were the one who cared. And now that she no longer feels the warmth of your pursuit, she misses that stability more than she misses you. She realizes that the version of you she kept at arm's length was the version of you she needed the most, not the romantic version, but the emotionally reliable one. And losing that reliability begins to feel like losing the emotional advantage she once took for granted. Eventually, your silence starts building pressure inside her, a quiet, growing discomfort she can't shake. She starts checking your online status. She notices when you post. She pays attention to whether you've been active or not. She wonders who else might be getting the attention she once received. Even if she pretends not to care, she's watching, she's observing, she's analyzing. Because silence is not just the absence of words, it's the presence of uncertainty. And uncertainty is the one emotional state most women cannot sit in for long without reacting. Your lack of communication becomes the loudest message she's ever received from you. And then it hits her, not suddenly, but gradually, like realization seeping through cracks. She tried to seal. She begins to feel something deeper than confusion or irritation. She feels your absence, not physically, but emotionally. She feels the loss of the version of you who cared, the version who tried, the version who believed in her. And that realization changes her entire emotional landscape. For the first time, she wonders if she misread your heart, if she underestimated your value, if she pushed too far without knowing the cost. And your silence becomes not an act of punishment, but a revelation. The revelation that you're not a man she can take for granted. And that's when she begins to feel the real weight of your pullback. As more time passes, she starts feeling something she never anticipated, a loss of emotional certainty. She realizes she no longer knows what you're thinking. She no longer knows how you feel. She no longer knows whether you still hold space for her in your heart. And for a woman who once felt comfortably in control of the dynamic, this loss of certainty cuts deeper than your silence itself. It forces her into an emotional state she rarely experiences, insecurity. Not the kind that makes her panic, the kind that makes her introspective. She begins to question her own behavior, her tone, her reactions, her emotional contributions. You stopping the chase becomes the quiet doorway through which her self-awareness finally enters. She also begins replaying the moments where she could have shown more care. She thinks about the late replies, the half-hearted responses, the distractions, the times she didn't appreciate your energy, the times she mistook your effort as desperation. And now, with your silence replacing all that consistency, she begins to feel something she spent months avoiding: accountability. Not the loud, dramatic kind, the quiet, unsettling kind that wakes her up at night and whispers, "You should have treated him better." This accountability isn't something you forced, it's something your absence created. And because she can no longer blame you for expecting too much, she's left facing the truth she ran from. Your silence also triggers an unexpected fear inside her, the fear that someone else might be receiving the version of you she took for granted. She wonders if another woman is giving you the attention she withheld. She wonders if someone else is appreciating your consistency. She wonders if someone else is benefiting from your emotional strength. This fear doesn't come from possessiveness, it comes from comparison. Women compare themselves constantly, and the moment she senses there might be someone else in your orbit, your silence becomes far heavier than distance. It becomes competition. And competition wakes up parts of her she didn't know were asleep. She begins feeling a strange kind of longing, not necessarily for a relationship, but for your emotional energy. Your presence used to give her a sense of importance. Your effort made her feel desired. Your attention made her feel superior to other women. But when that emotional supply ends, she starts missing what it made her feel about herself. This longing isn't just about missing you, it's about missing the version of herself she experienced in your presence. And once she feels that longing, everything she told herself about not caring starts to crumble. Silence becomes the emotional detox she didn't choose but can't ignore. Your silence also creates distance. She can't close casually anymore. She knows that if she reaches out now, she'll expose her emotional hand. She'll reveal that she's affected. She'll reveal that she's been thinking. She'll reveal that she's not as detached as she pretended. And this vulnerability terrifies her. Women hate making the first emotional move when they know they've lost their leverage. So instead of reaching out, she holds back, even though every part of her wants to break the silence. This internal conflict becomes the real battle she's fighting, the desire to reconnect versus the fear of losing dignity. And the longer she sits in that tension, the more she feels the weight of your absence. As time continues, she starts to notice the emotional contrast inside her. You used to give her a sense of stability. Now she feels a quiet instability she can't explain. You used to give her emotional certainty. now she feels emotional ambiguity. You used to give her reassurance, now she feels exposed. And this contrast is what finally forces her to confront the truth she avoided. She relied on your energy far more than she admitted. She depended on your effort far more than she realized. She was emotionally held by your presence in ways she didn't understand until you stopped offering it. Your silence becomes the emotional consequence she never saw coming. Something else begins to happen. She starts noticing the moments where she expects a message from you, not because she's waiting with hope, but because her body still remembers the rhythm of your presence. She checks her phone after work. She glances at her notifications before bed. She looks at her lock screen in the morning, and every time she sees nothing from you, she feels a tiny emotional sting, small but cumulative. That sting becomes her new reality. It's the emotional echo of losing someone she didn't believe she could lose. And the more she feels that sting, the more she begins to understand how much your effort meant. Your silence also awakens something deeper in her, reflection about what you meant in her life, beyond romance. She starts realizing you were consistent when she was inconsistent. You were present when she was unsure. You were emotionally grounded when she was chaotic. And now, without that grounding energy, she feels the imbalance inside herself more clearly. You stopping the chase becomes the moment she realizes you weren't just another guy, you were a stabilizing force. She misread as neediness, and the absence of that stability creates an emotional gap she didn't expect to feel. Then comes the most revealing stage, the stage where she begins questioning her own judgment. She thought she had you figured out. She thought she understood your heart. She thought you would always try, no matter what. But now that you're silent, she realizes she misjudged your strength. You weren't the desperate man she imagined. You were the committed man she didn't appreciate. And this shift in perception reshapes everything she believed about you. Your silence forces her to rebuild her understanding of who you are. And this time, she sees you with far more respect than she ever did when you were chasing. And finally, she starts feeling a type of emotional pull she didn't expect. A pull toward stability, toward effort, toward consistency, toward you. Not because you're chasing, not because you're begging, but because your silence revealed your true value. It showed her what life feels like without your presence. It showed her what emotional emptiness actually feels like. It showed her the difference between attention she took for granted and attention she cannot replace. And this realization becomes the moment she begins to miss you. Not the version of you she controlled, but the version of you she didn't understand until it was gone. As your silence continues, something unexpected begins to grow inside her. A discomfort that she can't brush aside anymore. It's not just that you're gone, it's that you're gone without explanation. Women are used to being chased, questioned, confronted, begged, or emotionally challenged when they pull away. But when you withdraw quietly, without a dramatic exit, without a confrontation, without a final emotional plea, it forces her to accept a reality she never prepared for. She didn't just lose your attention, she lost your emotional access. And this quiet, non-theatrical distance hits her far harder than any outburst ever could, because she realizes she no longer has the control she believed she had. She begins noticing that the small emotional advantages she once enjoyed are no longer there. She can't assume you'll reply instantly. She can't rely on your validation to lift her mood. She can't depend on your interest to reassure her worth. And that loss of emotional advantage creates a discomfort that slowly forms into longing. It's not longing for the relationship, it's longing for the emotional power she once had. But now she feels powerless, because your silence is not angry, not cold, not vengeful, it's neutral. Neutrality is what scares her the most. Anger means you care. Jealousy means you're invested. Arguments mean you're still emotionally hooked. But neutrality means you've let go. This neutrality forces her to confront the emotional emptiness she tried to ignore. She starts comparing the way she felt when you were present versus the way she feels now. The difference is stark. When you were chasing, she felt secure. When you go silent, she feels exposed. You used to be the emotional cushion she defaulted to, not consciously, but instinctively. Now, when she feels lonely, stressed, disappointed, or insecure, she doesn't have you to turn to. And while she may not reach out, she feels the absence more powerfully than she expected. Your silence becomes her emotional withdrawal, and each day she feels the pressure of it subtly increasing. Over time, she starts noticing your silence in small but significant ways. When she posts a story and you don't view it, she notices. When you're online but don't message her, she notices. When she sends a subtle hint and you ignore it, she notices. Women track these micro changes more intensely than they track major events, because attention is currency to them, and your withdrawal creates a deficit she can't refill. Every time she sees you not reacting, not engaging, not reaching out, she feels a quiet sting, the kind that sits in the back of her mind and whispers, something is different, and it's not in your favor. This is when she begins questioning herself, not aggressively, not dramatically, but subtly, the kind of self-doubt that creeps in during late hours and quiet moments. Was I too distant? Did I misread him? Why did he stop? Why doesn't he care? Women rarely admit it aloud, that emotional silence from a man who once cared deeply becomes a psychological mirror. She starts seeing her own patterns, her own selfishness, her own carelessness. She starts acknowledging the little ways she pushed you away. Silence forces her into responsibility, and that responsibility becomes the emotional weight she was never willing to carry before. As this weight grows, something else surfaces: jealousy. Even if she pretends she's moved on, even if she posts like she's unbothered, even if she looks like she's thriving, jealousy still creeps in. She wonders if someone else is receiving your attention. She imagines another woman appreciating you in ways she didn't. She envisions scenarios where you're giving your energy to someone new. And the more she imagines this, the more intense her emotions become. Jealousy doesn't always show on the surface. Sometimes it manifests in irritation, overthinking, or sudden emotional shifts. But the root is clear. She's afraid someone else now owns the space she once held effortlessly. Over time, her mind begins making emotional calculations she never cared to make earlier. She thinks about your stability, your depth, your effort, your consistency, all the qualities she dismissed when she assumed you were permanent. Now, in your silence, she reevaluates everything. She sees what kind of man you are. She realizes how rare your loyalty was. She understands that your commitment was never a weakness, but a strength she wasn't mature enough to appreciate. And this realization forces her to confront a deep truth. She didn't walk away from a weak man, she walked away from a good one. This emotional realization begins changing her behavior in subtle ways. She becomes quieter when your name comes up. She becomes curious when she sees your activity. She becomes nervous when she thinks about reaching out. She becomes reflective when she remembers your presence. These shifts aren't obvious to anyone else, but internally, they mark the beginning of her emotional unraveling. Silence didn't punish her. Silence revealed the truth she avoided, and that truth now sits heavily in her chest. She misjudged you, and your silence proves it. Next comes the phase she didn't expect: respect. She starts respecting you in a way she never did when you were chasing. She respects your discipline. She respects your emotional control. She respects your patience. She respects your calm. She respects the way you walked away without bitterness. She respects that you didn't beg, didn't crumble, didn't react. And most importantly, she respects that you didn't use silence as manipulation. You used it as protection. This respect becomes the emotional shift that makes her reevaluate everything she thought she knew about you. For the first time, she sees the strength behind your softness. And finally, deeper than missing you, deeper than analyzing you, deeper than questioning herself, she feels something she cannot hide from: regret. Not because you're gone, but because she realizes she never understood the value of the man you were until you stopped offering it. Your silence reveals the side of you she was too distracted to notice, the side that was loyal, patient, emotionally present, and genuinely invested. And now she's left with the emotional truth she never expected to face. Losing your attention wasn't the moment she lost you. Losing your chase was. Because once a man stops chasing and goes silent, he isn't pulling away. He's outgrowing the version of himself who once believed she was the only one worth pursuing. As more time passes, she enters a phase she never imagined she'd reach: the emotional awareness that your silence has consequences she can no longer ignore. She thought she had time. She thought you'd always be available. She thought your heart was permanently open to her. But now, in the absence of your effort, she begins to see how deeply she misread the situation. This awareness doesn't arrive all at once. It builds slowly, like a storm forming on the horizon. Every moment without your presence chips away at the illusion she built. She realizes you weren't chasing because you were weak. You were chasing because you believed in her. And now that belief is gone, not because you stopped loving, but because you finally respected yourself enough to step back. And that's when the emotional spiral begins. The silence, which she once interpreted as disinterest, now feels like an entirely different force, a sign that you've evolved, matured, and risen above the emotional chaos she once created. She begins questioning the choices that led to this distance. She revisits the moments when she dismissed you. She replays the times she reacted impulsively. She thinks about the days she gave you half the energy you gave her. Regret starts slipping into her thoughts, not loudly but quietly, a subtle sting that grows deeper each day. She starts wondering if she ruined something that was never going to return. As regret grows, fear begins to appear. The fear that you may never come back. The fear that you found peace in her absence. The fear that another woman now benefits from the emotional strength she took for granted. This fear doesn't come from love alone. It comes from the realization that she lost her emotional advantage over you. She no longer knows how you feel. She no longer knows what occupies your mind. She no longer knows if she still matters, and this loss of emotional certainty creates an inner panic. She tries desperately to hide. The woman who once felt secure in your attention now feels displaced in your silence. This fear leads her to monitor you more closely than ever before. She checks your socials, but not just casually. She looks for patterns. She looks for changes. She looks for signs of movement in your life. Every post you make becomes a clue. Every update becomes a message. Every moment you appear happy becomes a threat to her emotional comfort. The silence she once dismissed now feels like distance she can't measure, and that distance makes her anxious. She no longer sees you as the man who was always there. She sees you as the man she may have permanently lost. At this stage, your silence begins to reshape her pride. Her ego, which once made her believe she could do better, becomes fragile. She starts comparing other men to you, not their looks, but their depth, not their charm, but their consistency, not their confidence, but their ability to care. And the more she compares, the more she realizes how rare your presence was. Her pride slowly gives way to humility. She begins to see you as someone she should have prioritized, not someone she should have tested. And this shift in her pride marks the beginning of her emotional openness, something she never allowed herself to feel when you were chasing her. Then comes the emotional silence from her side, not towards you but within herself. She becomes quieter around others. She starts reflecting during her day. She becomes withdrawn in ways people around her notice. It's the weight of losing emotional access to a man who once cared deeply. It's the realization that the emotional security she felt wasn't created by her, it was created by you. And now that you've stepped back, she feels the void. This void isn't sadness alone. It's an emptiness that surfaces when a woman realizes she didn't just lose a relationship, she lost a version of herself she didn't value until it disappeared. Soon, she begins to wonder what your silence really means. She starts asking herself questions she never asked before. Is he done? Has he moved on? Does he still care? Why doesn't he reach out? These aren't questions driven by ego anymore. They come from a genuine desire to understand what happened. She begins to understand that your silence is not a strategy, not punishment, not manipulation, it's clarity. You're no longer giving energy to something that drained you. You're no longer investing in someone inconsistent. And this realization pierces her in ways no argument ever could. This clarity forces her to confront the emotional dynamics she once ignored. She sees that you were the one trying to build something real. You were the one putting in effort. You were the one offering stability. And she sees that she pushed away the man who was actually capable of love, thinking she could do better, thinking she could take her time, thinking you'd always be there. Now, your silence brings the truth to the surface. You were the steady force in her emotional chaos, and now that you've stepped out of the storm, she realizes how much balance your presence brought into her life. At this point, she no longer sees you as the man she took lightly. She sees you as a man with boundaries, a man with self-respect, a man who knows when to walk away. And ironically, this is the exact version of you she is most attracted to. Not the version who chased, not the version who overgave, but the version who stayed grounded in his truth, even when it meant losing her. This shift is what makes her finally see your worth, not because you forced her to, but because your silence revealed what your presence hid. Finally, she reaches the emotional point she never expected, the point where she wants to come back, but doesn't know how. She wants to speak, but hesitates. She wants to reconnect, but fears rejection. She wants your presence, but doesn't know if you still want her. Your silence created the emotional distance she needed to understand your value, but now it becomes the emotional wall she doesn't know how to climb. And in this moment, she realizes the truth that hits harder than anything else. Losing the man who cared wasn't the painful part. Losing the man who stopped caring is. As more days pass and you remain untouched by the emotional noise she once used to pull you back, she enters a deeper and more complicated stage of realization, the recognition that she can no longer predict you. Predictability gave her power. She knew when you would text, how you would respond, how quickly you would fold, how easily you would reassure her. But now, you've broken the emotional pattern she depended on. She can't read your silence. She can't decode your absence. She can't interpret your calm. And this unpredictability becomes psychologically overwhelming for her, because women don't fear losing men, they fear losing their influence over men. Your silence is not just distance anymore, it is liberation. And she senses it. She senses that you're no longer carrying the emotional weight she once placed on your shoulders, and that shift makes her confront the truth she avoided for so long. You were the one who kept the bond alive, not her. This emotional clarity begins affecting her day-to-day life in ways she didn't expect. Suddenly, your name pops into her mind at random moments. She thinks of you while getting ready. She remembers something you said while scrolling her phone. She hears a song that brings your presence back into her emotional awareness. These moments don't feel romantic to her, they feel unsettling. Because each memory reveals a different version of herself. The version that didn't appreciate you. The version that dismissed your effort. The version that believed she had endless time. And every time she recalls that version of herself, she feels a wave of guilt she can't express to anyone. Not because guilt is new to her, but because this guilt is tied to losing someone she once believed she had wrapped around her finger. That loss hits deeper than heartbreak. It hits her identity. She also starts noticing the difference between how other men treat her and how you treated her. Other men might flirt, compliment, or show interest, but none of them provide the emotional depth you offered. None of them match your presence without trying. None of them feel as stable, consistent, or secure as you did. And now that you're no longer accessible, these comparisons happen constantly. She compares their conversations to yours. She compares their tone to yours. She compares their stability to yours. And slowly, she begins to understand something she never realized while you were chasing. You didn't just like her, you made her feel safe. And now that the safety is gone, she realizes how rare it was. Her silence becomes the internal acknowledgement that she may have let go of the only man who genuinely understood her. This realization pushes her into emotional discomfort that she tries to mask through distractions, talking to new guys, spending more time with friends, posting more frequently, acting unbothered. But no matter what she tries, there's always a quiet part of her consciousness that returns to the same question: why didn't he come back? That question hurts her more than anything else, because it forces her to confront a truth she never wanted to face. You stopped waiting. Most men continue chasing out of hope, habit, or emotional attachment, but you broke that cycle silently. You walked away without asking for closure. You let go without demanding answers. This level of emotional strength forces her to rethink everything she believed about you. And the more she rethinks it, the more she feels the weight of what she took for granted. Eventually, this internal pressure begins to affect how she sees herself. She starts doubting the narrative she told herself, the narrative where she was the one in control, the one with the options, the one who could replace you easily. Now she realizes those options don't fulfill her the way your presence did. The emotional ease she had with you isn't something she can recreate with anyone else. She begins to see that the version of her who rejected your effort wasn't powerful, she was emotionally immature. And your silence highlighted that immaturity more clearly than any conversation ever could. She begins to mature emotionally, not because she wants to, but because silence forced her to evolve in ways attention never did. This emotional evolution leads her to something even deeper: shame. Not the dramatic kind, but the quiet internal shame of knowing she mishandled someone valuable. She remembers moments where you were patient. She remembers moments where you supported her. She remembers the times she ignored your depth, dismissed your communication, or minimized your effort, and the shame hits her like delayed emotional gravity. She now sees the imbalance clearly. You gave more, she gave less. You cared deeply, she cared selectively. You were present, she was inconsistent. This shame becomes the emotional shadow she carries privately, and no amount of distraction can erase it. She begins to wish she had treated you differently, not because she wants to feel loved again, but because she realizes she lost someone who genuinely wanted her best. Your silence becomes a kind of emotional lesson for her, one she didn't ask for, but desperately needed. She begins understanding that relationships aren't built on excitement or validation, they're built on consistency, presence, and emotional maturity. She realizes she mistook your consistency for neediness, your reassurance for weakness, your loyalty for lack of options. Now she sees the truth. Those were strengths only emotionally mature men possess. She now understands that the version of herself who pushed you away wasn't rejecting you out of strength. She was rejecting you out of fear, insecurity, and immaturity, and your silence didn't break her, it exposed her. This exposure begins shaping her in ways you'll never see. She becomes more thoughtful, more aware, more reflective. She starts evaluating her patterns in relationships. She begins recognizing how often she pushes away good men while entertaining men who bring chaos. She sees how her emotions controlled her decisions, and for the first time, she wishes she had been emotionally present when you were. But wishes don't bring you back, and this reality becomes the hardest part for her. She sees now what she couldn't see before. The good man she lost wasn't replaceable. He wasn't temporary. He wasn't an experience. He was a turning point, and she let that turning point slip through her hands. Eventually, she reaches the emotional phase where she wonders if she should reach out. The idea builds slowly, not from desire alone, but from the fear of losing you permanently. She drafts messages she never sends. She checks your profile at night. She imagines conversations that never happen. She considers apologizing, but fears you won't respond. She wants to break the silence, but worries she's no longer someone you want in your life. This conflict becomes her emotional prison. The woman who once felt untouchable now feels uncertain, exposed, and hesitant, and this hesitation is the clearest proof of how deeply your silence has affected her. It forced her to see her own vulnerability. And ultimately, brother, she reaches the point where she finally understands the full truth. The man she lost was not the man she ignored. It was the man she never truly knew. She realizes your silence wasn't punishment, it was transformation. You didn't withdraw to hurt her, you withdrew because you rediscovered your value, and that value now stands taller, stronger, and more untouchable than ever. She misses you not because you left, but because she now sees what she was, too blind to appreciate. A man with emotional depth, consistency, and self-respect. And the irony is that she will miss you strongest when you are the farthest, because silence doesn't just show her who you are, it shows her everything she failed to become while she still had access to you.